हे गाइस, मैं एकलव्य आज आपको ए ट्रायम्फ ऑफ सर्जरी पार्ट 5 पढ़ाने जा रहा हूँ। इस पार्ट में ए ट्रायम्फ ऑफ सर्जरी के सभी क्वेश्चन और आंसर दिए गए हैं। हम लोग बारी बारी से चैप्टर 1 के सभी क्वेश्चनों का आंसर देखें। रीड एंड फाइंड आउट। क्वेश्चन नंबर 1, व्हाई इज मिसिस पंफ्रे वरीड अबाउट ट्रिकी? श्रीमती पंफ्रे ट्रिकी के बारे में, ट्रिकी के विषय में क्यों चिंतित हैं? आंसर, मिसिस पंफ्रे ऑब्जर्व दैट ट्रिकीज आईज आर bloodshot and roomy. He is so listless, so Mistress Pumphrey is worried about Tricky. Question number 2, what does she do to help him? Is she wise in this? वे उसकी सहायता के लिए क्या करती हैं? क्या वे इस संबंध में बुद्धिमान हैं? आंसर, टू हेल्प ट्रिकी and make him more energetic, she starts giving him some little extras between meals, some malt and some cod liver oil and a bowl of Horlicks at night to make him sleep. I think Mistress Pumphrey is not wise in this concern. Question number 3, who does I refer to in this story? इस कहानी में मैं कौन है? आंसर, I in this story is the narrator, Mr. Harriet, who is a veterinary surgeon. Read and find out. Question number 1, is the narrator as rich as Tricky's mistress? क्या वर्णन करता ट्रिकी की मालकिन जितना धनी हैं? आंसर, नो, द नरेटर इज नॉट सो रिच एज ट्रिकीज मिस्ट्रेस. द वे ही एंजॉयड एक्सपेंसिव वाइन, ब्रांडी एंड एग्स रिफ्लेक्ट्स दिस. क्वेश्चन नंबर 2, हाउ डज ही ट्रीट द डॉग? वे कुत्ते का उपचार कैसे करते हैं? आंसर, फॉर 2 days he does not give him any food except plenty of water. At the end of the second day, Tricky starts showing interest in his surroundings. On the third day, he follows the dogs when food is served to them. He is not served any food. When dog finish eating, he licks 1 or 2 bowls. On the fourth day, he too is served food. He enjoys eating it. From then on, his progress starts. He recovers rapidly. He starts enjoying playing, fighting, rolling, and jostling with other dogs. Thus, Mr. Harriet does not give Tricky any medicine, brandy, wine, and eggs sent by Mistress Pumphrey, but he gives him a lot of exercise and normal food as other dogs eat. Question number 3, why is he tempted to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest? वे ट्रिकी को एक स्थायी मेहमान की तरह क्यों रखना चाहते हैं? आंसर, Mr. Harriet told Mistress Pumphrey on phone that Tricky had started recovering. Mistress Pumphrey started sending eggs, wine, and brandy for Tricky to give him extra strength, as it was not wise to give such things to a dog. Mr. Harriet and his friends started eating to these things themselves. They enjoyed these feasts so much that Mr. Harriet was tempted to keep Tricky as a permanent guest. Question number 4, why does Mistress Pumphrey think the dog's recovery is a triumph of surgery? श्रीमती पंफ्रे कुत्ते के ठीक होने को शल्य चिकित्सा की एक जीत क्यों सोचती हैं? आंसर, when Mr. Pumphrey admitted Tricky to the hospital. He was in a bad shape, very sick, vomiting, whimpering with pain, and not looking at his favorite food. She thought that Tricky was suffering from a serious illness. In fact, her pampering, giving him very rich diet, tonics like cod liver oil and Horlicks, some extras between the meals, too much eating, and no exercise had made him sick. Mr. Harriet knew it, so he gave him the right treatment. He did not give him anything to eat for 3 days, only gave him a lot of water. On the fourth day, hunger revived in Tricky. He was given normal food with other dogs. Tricky started recovering rapidly and also had the much needed exercise by playing, fighting, jostling, and rolling with other dogs. Mr. Harriet neither gave him any medicine nor extra nourishment. The eggs, wine, and brandy sent by Mistress Pumphrey. After 15 days, when Mr. Pumphrey came to collect Tricky, she was very happy to see Tricky recovered, looking strong, healthy, and active. She called it triumph of surgery or the success of surgery. Think about it. Question number 1. What kind of a person do you think the narrator, a veterinary surgeon, is? Would you say he is tactful as well as full of common sense? क्या आप सोचते हैं कि वर्णनकर्ता एक पशु चिकित्सक किस प्रकार के व्यक्ति हैं? क्या आप कहेंगे कि वे सामान्य सूझबूझ के साथ कौशलपूर्ण हैं? Answer. The narrator is a kind person. He has deep regard for Mistress Pumphrey. He is concerned mainly in her pretty dog. He is tactful as well as full of common sense. When he noticed that the pet dog Tricky is suffered by overeating, he takes him with him to his clinic for treatment. He treats Tricky in a fortnight, so he is tactful. He takes Tricky with him to his clinic, not treated at Mistress Pumphrey's home, so he has a common sense also. Question number 2. Do you think Tricky was happy to go home? What do you think will happen now? क्या आप सोचते हैं कि ट्रिकी घर जाने के लिए खुश था? क्या आप सोचते हैं अब क्या होगा? Answer. Tricky was very happy to go home because he wants to live with his mistress, Mrs. Pumphrey. It may be that Tricky again will suffer by overeating because Mistress Pumphrey loves him very much and gives him too much to eat. It may be also possible that Mistress Pumphrey follows Mr. Harriet's suggestions. Question 3. Do you think this is a real life episode or mere a fiction, or is it a mixture of both? क्या तुम सोचते हो कि यह वास्तविक कहानी है या मात्र एक झूठी कहानी है या दोनों का मिश्रण है? Answer. We think that it is a real life episode because in a real life many people have pet dogs and also love too much to them. Because of too much love, they give more and more food to their pet to make them strong by overeating. So it is a real life episode. Talk about it. Number 1. This episode describes the silly behavior of a rich woman who is foolishly indulgent, perhaps because she is lonely. Do you think such people are merely silly, or can their action cause harm to others? यह नाटक एक धनी स्त्री के भोले व्यवहार का वर्णन करता है जो कि मूर्खता है, शायद क्योंकि वह अकेली है. क्या तुम सोचते हो ऐसे लोग बहुत कम होते हैं जो भोले हों या उनके कार्य दूसरों की हानि का कारण बनते हों। आंसर, वी थिंक दैट rich people are merely silly, but Mistress Pumphrey had no companion or family member except the pet. Tricky, so she behaves so silly. The actions of those people who are silly can harm to others. Mistress Pumphrey feeds the pet, Tricky, too much by her silly behavior. As a result, Tricky is suffered by disease. Question number 2. Do you think there are also parents like Mistress Pumphrey? क्या तुम सोचते हो कि श्रीमती पंफ्रे की तरह भी माता पिता होते हैं? आंसर, यस, देयर आर ऑल्सो पेरेंट्स लाइक मिस्ट्रेस पंफ्रे. They think that their child will be weak if they will not give too much to eat to him or her. As a result of this, the child becomes fat and lazy. The fatness brings forth many diseases because the parents do not make them exercise owing to the lack of sense. Those parents are called silly or foolish. Question number 3. What would you have done if you were a member of the staff in Mistress Pumphrey's household, a neighbor? What would your life have been like in general? आपने क्या किया होता यदि आप श्रीमती पंफ्रे के घर के सदस्य होते, एक पड़ोसी होते? आपका सामान्य जीवन क्या होता? आंसर, if I were the member of the staff in Mistress Pumphrey's household, I would give plenty of exercise to Tricky and cut off his meal. If I were her neighbor, I would give suggestion to her not to give too much to eat to her dog and also give the exercise to the dog. My life would have been like with general idea. Too much of anything is bad. Question number 4. What would you have done if you were in the narrator's place? यदि आप वर्णनकर्ता के स्थान पर होते तो क्या करते? Answer, if I were in the narrator's place, I would have done like a good veterinary surgeon, as Mr. Harrier did. The surgeon takes care too much of his patients, so I would treat the Tricky anyway by my best tactful acts.